The Indiana Hoosiers do it again. They land another commit in the transfer portal, this time a power four tight end, but there continues to be a whole lot more chatter.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by the College Football Playoff. The College Football Playoff is here, and you don't want to miss a moment of the action. The College Football Playoff is presented by Allstate. It begins with 4 first-round games December 20th and 21st on ESPN, ABC, TNT, and on Max. Well, thank you so much for being here. Shout out to all my everydayers. Your support means the world, and the show is growing like crazy. We're going to take a look at Notre Dame, really start to dive into them and preview them today, and a full episode tomorrow with a crossover edition of Locked On Hoosiers with Locked On Irish. Yes, we'll have a full breakdown for you of Notre Dame coming up tomorrow, but we'll start to take a sneak peek at that here on today's show. Plus, we got some news about another Indiana basketball guard who had in-season surgery. We'll talk about Jakai Newton and how long he can miss time and how long he could be out for Mike Woodson and his squad. But Indiana football, they do it again. They're averaging 1 commit per day or more so far since the portal has opened. They land a power 4 tight end from Wisconsin in the transfer portal. Plus, there continues to be more chatter. Could Indiana be on the verge of landing a quarterback? We'll talk about that in just a few moments. Let's talk about what we know. And what we know is that Indiana has landed the Wisconsin tight end transfer, Riley Nowakowski. And let me start by saying this. Don't go look at his stats. Don't go Google it. You're not going to be impressed. And I say that with all due respect because I'm going to tell you what they are in just a second. This is not a, oh my gosh, look at this crazy addition. Indiana's going to win the national championship next year because of this tight end. Not saying that by any means. So let's go ahead and get that out of the way. But what I do think he is a really good depth piece. I think he's an experienced player. He does the dirty work type of player and somebody you bring in as a leader in the tight end room and just on the offense or even on the team as a whole. Riley Nowakowski from Wisconsin, 6'1", 243 pounds. He's one of those guys that's been playing college football for quite some time. He's going into his 6th year of eligibility and his final year of eligibility here in Indiana. Again, 6'1", 243 pounds. He played in 12 games for Wisconsin this past season, caught 11 balls for 74 yards. In his entire career at Wisconsin, in 40 games, he's got 18 catches for 131 yards and 1 touchdown. So you can do the quick math there. Most of his career didn't do a whole lot, wasn't overly productive here. His last season, again, 11 catches for 74 yards. So, again, the stats just aren't there. But you go and watch some of the film of this guy, and you can tell why he's been playing Power 4 football for so long, because you trust him. You can put him out there, and he knows the offense. He knows which way the play is going. He knows who he needs to block. He gets to the second level, and he does his job and doesn't get penalized a whole lot. He is a leader in the locker room and on the field. He's a great communicator, somebody that you can just trust. And so I think you are in a good spot by bringing him in. I mean, you're not hurting anything by bringing him in because you're losing Zach Horton, your major tight end, your go-to tight end, one of the best tight ends in college football. You lose him after this season. And so it can't hurt to bring somebody like this in, and I'm excited to see what he becomes. Again, I don't think it's going to be a Heisman Trophy winning type of thing, right? But it's somebody just to add to the rotation and add to the transfer portal class that Indiana's bringing in. Now, there is still continuing to be some major chatter, some major momentum, and some conversations being had about where Indiana could be going next and who we could be bringing in. And remember, I've continued to tell you we need a quarterback. So much so, Indiana agrees. They've been bringing some guys in. You've seen the reports by now that Mendoza, the Cal quarterback, has been on campus. This was several days ago, but he's been on campus, and the Hoosiers are interested in him. Now, he's taken several visits elsewhere. He is currently ranked on 247 anyway. You can use whatever site you want to. He is considered the top-ranked quarterback available in the transfer portal, along with Malik Murphy from Duke. You remember that name, don't you? Walker White from Auburn, Aaron Noland, the four-star from Ohio State, and Bo Pribula from Penn State, who's been taking several Power 4 visits and could be on the verge of committing somewhere. Don't really know where we stand there, so we'll kind of stay away from that one. You still have Justin Martin, the UCLA kid. How about Matthew Sluka, right? The UNLV NIL story out there is still uncommitted. So big names still remain in the transfer portal. And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, there are names of quarterbacks that are currently on college football playoff rosters that have not entered yet, that I think are going to enter, that Indiana could throw their hat in the ring for. So you have to keep that in mind, right? Because teams that make the college football playoff, once your season ends, you get an extended amount of time, 30 days, to enter the portal. So Indiana could still go after some of these guys, ones that haven't even entered yet. But I really, really like what Fernando Mendoza brings or could bring to Indiana if he decides to commit here. Had a good visit. I've heard things went well. It was a very hush-hush type of visit where not many people knew until it became public. But I really do like him. I mean, this is a guy that, again, you watch the film, he's not going to do anything that makes you think, oh, there's the next Lamar Jackson. There he is. Like, you're just not going to think that, but he makes the right decision. He checks down, gets out of plays, doesn't turn it over, can extend with his legs, and just flat out can play. He's a gritty, gritty quarterback, and that's why he's leaving Cal, because he can get better. He can do better. He can be on a better team and a better place. And look at what Curt Cignetti and this staff did with Curtis Rourke, who was good when he came in, but got better this year than he was last year. You do lose Tino, and that does hurt more than some people think. And we had some discourse here, and that's great. I love that. But you've got to find somebody who is established, who is good, but you can still make better and try to get them on to the next level. Could that be Mendoza? Could it be Murphy? Could it be White? Could it be Noah? Could it be somebody else? I'm just saying, watch out. The Hoosiers are in the market for a quarterback, and there's a lot of options out there on who it could be. All right, coming up here on Locked On Hoosiers, flipping over to basketball for a few minutes because more bad news on the injury front, really the surgery front for Mike Woodson and his Indiana Hoosiers. We'll talk about that coming up next right here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by the College Football Playoff. It's that time of year. The College Football Playoff is back. And with the newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the College Football Playoff begins December 21st, right? That's the TNT coverage on Saturday, December 21st, starting with the College Football Playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern. Leading into our first matchup, the SMU Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns and a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the College Football Playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and on Max. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you so much again for being here. Shout out to all of my everydayers, those of you that come back every single day, whether you listen on audio, whether you're watching on video. Doesn't matter to me, truthfully. You guys are supporting this show so much right now, and I really, really do appreciate you. If you're listening on audio, you know the drill. Be sure you're following. Be sure you've got those notifications turned on. I don't want you to miss any episodes that we post, whether it's every day, Monday through Friday for free like we do now, or it's a bonus episode on a weekend somewhere, or an extra episode during the week. Don't want you to miss any of those. And for those of you watching on YouTube, like this video, first of all. That's always step number one. Every day, hit that thumb up. It really helps us out. Comment your thoughts down below on the tight end from Wisconsin. And should Indiana get a quarterback? And if so, who? Tell me who you think that should be. And then the biggest thing you can do, the best thing you can do, is subscribe to the channel. If you do that, you're an everydayer. You'll get notified. You will never miss an episode of this show. And it shows me that you're liking the content and that you want more. Folks, we're pushing for 4,000 subs before the turn of the new year. We're less than 30 away. Can we get there today? I think so. I think we definitely can. We're less than 30 away from 4,000. So thank you for those that have, and for those that will, and for those that do. You guys mean the world to me. Really, really do appreciate that. All right, so more bad surgery news for Indiana basketball. We knew Gabe Cupps had surgery. He was going to be out indefinitely. We talked about how, yes, that hurts, but it's not the end of the world, right? And no offense to Gabe Cupps. It's just he was a guy that the minutes just weren't really there for him all that much. When you bring in Miles Rice and Cannon Carlisle, Bryson Tucker right through the high school ranks. And the hope was you were also going to have Jakai Newton, who could finally get back on the floor and get completely healthy and be an impact on this team. Well, not so fast, my friend. Jakai Newton, it is being reported, Indiana let us know that he has undergone knee surgery for the redshirt freshman. I'll read you the statement from Indiana. This is what IU released. It says, quote, Indiana redshirt freshman guard Jakai Newton underwent successful surgery to treat an injury to his lower body. He will be out indefinitely, but is expected to return this season. This is the important part right here. Listen up. It says, quote, this injury is not related to the one he had prior to the start of the 23-24 season. So what that tells me is this is something that's probably been going on for quite some time with Jakai. I mean, probably going back to his high school days, if I had to guess. And he finally had enough. Again, not speculating, have no idea what the injury or what the issue was here, but it sounds like it was something that's been going on for quite some time. And he said, look, we got to get this thing taken care of. Sounds like it was a minor surgery. He is out indefinitely, but they say that he should be able to return at some point this season. And so while you're talking about two guys really with Gabe Cupps and Jakai Newton that were not playing all that much or really at all at times, while it's okay for now, you are limited on what your guard roles are because you have Miles Rice, Cannon Carlisle, Trey Galloway, and Bryson Tucker. And if anything is to happen there, whether it be injury, whether it be a slump or whatever, a discipline, anything like that, I'm not saying there's anything there, just playing the what-if game here. Stick with me. If anything like that happens, you are going to be in trouble. But you can't tell somebody to not get surgery if it helps them and relieves them and is going to make them better. And so I wish nothing but the best for Jakai because, my goodness, he has just dealt with this his entire young career of trying to get acclimated in college basketball, whether it was his high-level high school days and now trying to get going in college. I mean, look, we've seen the spurts, the bits and pieces of when he's on the floor and the things we heard, the things we saw from practice, fall practice, really leading up to the start of the season. We heard the explosiveness was there. The shooting was there. The playmaking was there. We heard great things about Jakai. It just wasn't every day because he couldn't go every day. But this surgery had nothing to do with the other injury. And so hopefully that is still working out and getting that one better. And hopefully this surgery is able to to get him right with whatever the other issue was that he had. Don't let this distract you, though, from the fact that Indiana's guards have to play better and more consistently. Better consistently, I guess I should say. Because you've seen it from Miles Rice. He can drop 15, 20 points a game. That's no surprise to anybody. And typically can shoot the ball fairly well. But am I crazy to say that that's not what's going to win Indiana basketball games? Is it crazy to say that as fun as it is to watch Miles Rice score 20, 25 points, that's not what's going to win Indiana basketball games? It's great that he does that, but that can't be our offense. That can't be our only high production player. You need Oumar Ballo to score. You need Malik Renew to stay on the floor and score. You need Mackenzie Mbako to wake up, man. He has got to be your X factor type of player because he's the best shooter you have on the team, and he's been non-existent the last handful of games. You need Cannon Carlisle to step up. You need Trey Galloway to be a leader, be a super senior, and play his role and score the basketball and command the offense and be a leader and communicator on defense. Bryson Tucker starting to come on, which is great to see, but you cannot put that pressure on him right now. You need Luke Goody to step up and hit his shots. He's open and he's taking them. He just ain't making them. And he's got to start doing that as well. And the Hoosiers have to find it, man, because the guard spot has been lacking. It has. And from a production standpoint, at least consistently. You've seen the flashes from Miles. You've seen the flashes from Cannon. You've seen the flashes from Galloway. But, man, I'm tired of seeing it once every 2 weeks. I'm tired of that. Play good consistently. It's not that hard. And you don't have to carry the entire weight of the team and of the offense or even of the defense if you're talking some of the bigger guys. Spread it around, share it around, and help each other out and just get into some sort of a rhythm here. I mean, it seems like it's such a grind, man. It's such a fight every single game where they're almost making it harder than it should be. Remember when you were a kid and your parents would tell you to do something and you thought you knew the better way, so you would do it, and then you'd learn that lesson because they told you, well, why didn't you just do it this way? You made it 5 times harder on yourself. Been there. And that just seems like it's the case with Indiana. And I don't know if that's something with the players, if that's the system they're running, if that's the coaching staff, if that's how they practice. I don't know. I don't know. Mike Woodson told us they had a couple of good practices after the embarrassing loss to Nebraska. But I be honest, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care how well you practice, how competitive practice was. Doesn't matter to me. If it's not translating in game, then what you're doing is not working, is what I'm trying to say with all of this. And now you continue to watch some of your depth, your distant depth, but your depth start to get depleted. Gabe Cupps, Jakai Newton. You cannot continue to go down this trail if you don't get production from your starters and your 6th, 7th, 8th man off the bench. And for Indiana, coming up, you've got Chattanooga this Saturday morning, and then you've got Winthrop. That's like 8 days after that on the 29th before you open up, or I guess get Big Ten play restarted with Rutgers at home, at Penn State, and home for USC. Very winnable games. Exciting games, tough games, but winnable games. We'll see what Indiana can do when Big Ten play continues. All right, final segment on Locked On Hoosiers coming up. We are going to go back to football as we continue, or I guess start to dive into Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, coming up tomorrow. Isn't that crazy that the college football playoff is almost here? We'll talk about Notre Dame, start to look at how they got here when we come back right here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, Thursday night football coming up tonight, right? You could do it for Sunday football, Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, Monday night, whatever the case may be. You can check out the latest stats, view play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money on sports action. Join over the 10 million members like myself and sign up today. They now offer MasterCard for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. So however you need to do it, they've got you covered. Prize Picks offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. They'll do it for NBA. They've done it for NHL. They do a lot of goalies for NHL, right? They'll take their save number, that more or less, and they'll drop that number by like 25%. And it's almost a no-brainer to try to jump on that and win a few dollars. So be sure that you download Prize Picks right now. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege and get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's time to run your game. Final segment on Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you so much again for being here. For those of you on audio or video, doesn't matter to me. Really do appreciate your support. Reminder, coming up tomorrow night after the Indiana and Notre Dame game, we are going live right here on the Locked On Hoosiers YouTube channel for an hour for a post-game party. I hope it's a party anyway. We're going to have guests. We're going to have different personnel on here talking about Indiana, talking Notre Dame, talking the national landscape of college football, the college football playoff, winner, loser, all of that. We're going live for an hour right here on the Locked On Hoosiers YouTube channel immediately following the game between Indiana and Notre Dame. So keep that in mind. We're looking forward to that. Hope you'll join us for the post-game party after Indiana and Notre Dame. And it's time to talk about Notre Dame. It's time to dive into them just a little bit. I mentioned earlier and want to remind you that coming up tomorrow on the Friday edition of Locked On Hoosiers, we're doing a crossover. We are going to sit down with our boy Tyler Wojak from Locked On Irish and talk everything Indiana and Notre Dame. He'll ask me some stuff. I'll ask him some stuff. We'll give our predictions. We'll talk about who wins if, right? All of that is going to be a lot of fun. So that's coming up on tomorrow's show. So keep that in mind. But I do want to look at Notre Dame for just a couple of minutes here. 11-1 overall, right? A team that we have done a lot of research on. I'm talking you, me, fans of Indiana that are getting ready for this game. And something that we're going to, I'm sure, talk about tomorrow is how special this is, how big this moment is for, of course, for Indiana, for us being in the biggest game in the history of this football program, but also for the state, right? You get to play two teams in state, a rivalry, a long-standing relationship here between Notre Dame and Indiana. And again, I hate that one team does have to lose. Not that I'm a Notre Dame fan by any means, but we do love our state and we want to support our state and see good things happen. But that goes out the window tomorrow evening when we kick off against Notre Dame. All right, they're 11-1 overall. 4 top 25 wins at the time. All right, I think that's very important to note here. Their win over Texas A&M on the road to start the season was massive because A&M, heck, they were a playoff contender down the stretch in the SEC. You had a win over 15 Louisville, 24 Navy, and 19 Army. Now, I think it's fair to say Navy and Louisville were not top 25 and are not top 25 teams this season in college football. I'll give you a win over Army, a dominating win over Army, and I'll give you your credit win over Texas A&M. Absolutely. But the thing that everybody jumped on Notre Dame, myself included, was the loss in week 2 to Northern Illinois, which I've bashed them big time, yes. And I don't think it's fair for the love that they got, even though they lost this game. But you do have to give them some flowers for getting 3 top 25 wins after that to kind of wash that away. I just don't like how it feels like we just forgot about that. We just forgave them for that, and we just kind of moved on. You can't forget that. You can't just wash that away and push it to the side and say, oh, well, that was week 2. That's fine. You're okay. We're not going to worry about that. You beat Louisville. Great job. I just can't do that. But I'm going to say this. Notre Dame's a really good football team. This is one of the better Notre Dame teams that I've seen in quite some time because, man, they dominated teams down the stretch after that Northern Illinois game. The only game they played within one possession after that Northern Illinois game was the Louisville game. They did what we did. They just beat people bad. And were just really, really on cruise control for most of that season. And they won all of their games after Northern Illinois. And so, guys, I think you need to watch out for. Again, we'll talk about this more tomorrow. Of course, Riley Leonard, the quarterback, a guy that stats won't blow you away, but he doesn't turn it over, and he can run. He can extend plays with his legs. And then Jeremiyah Love, I think the running back who is flirting with 1,000 yards. They run a 2 running back system, so keep that in mind. Does Notre Dame. A guy that has 15 touchdowns on the year and almost 1,000 yards, you should probably keep an eye on him. And the weather is going to be a big factor. We've mentioned that. I'm sure we'll talk about that tomorrow as well. My statement as we wrap up here, Notre Dame's a good football team. We cannot overlook them. We cannot just assume we are going to win this game. You're on the road at night at Notre Dame, in the cold, in the wind, possible snow. Things are stacked against you if you're Indiana. But I'm excited, man. I cannot wait for this game to kick off tomorrow night, that is. But tomorrow on Locked On Hoosiers, a crossover with Indiana and Notre Dame. Hoosiers and Irish. We sit down with Tyler from Locked On Irish for a full preview episode of the first round of the college football playoff, and then a post-game party tomorrow night on the Locked On Hoosiers YouTube channel, all right? That is going to do it for today's episode. All of that is coming up tomorrow, all right, Hoosier fans? So until then, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.